A decree had been sealed and signed, irreversible. In 13 months, every Jew in the Persian Empire would be put to death. Men, women, children, a genocide scheduled by royal order. And the one person who could stop it had not spoken a word. She was the queen, and the king did not know she was Jewish. The Persian Empire in the 5th century before the Common Era stretched from India to Ethiopia, 127 provinces. One man ruled them all, Ahasuerus, known to history as Xerxes I. He was real. His reign is documented in sources beyond the biblical text. Greek historians wrote of him. Persian inscriptions from his reign still survive. His capital was Susa. His palace, his power, his reach. These are matters of historical record, and the story preserved in the Hebrew scriptures in the section known as the Ketuvim, or writings, begins not with triumph but with humiliation. What follows would echo far beyond the walls of that palace. The king held a feast. For 6 months he displayed the wealth of his kingdom to his nobles and officials. Then a 7-day banquet in the courtyard of the palace. Wine flowed without limit. And on the 7th day, intoxicated and eager to impress his guests, Ahasuerus sent for his queen, Vashti. He wanted her brought before the crowd, wearing her crown, so that all could see her beauty. She refused. In front of his guests, in front of his empire, the king had never been defied like this. His advisors warned that her refusal would spread. Every wife would learn of it. Every wife would disobey her husband. The order of the household would crumble. Vashti was removed, stripped of her crown, never mentioned again in the account. And the search for a new queen began. That search would place a hidden Jew on the throne, and set in motion events no one could foresee. Young women were gathered from every province, brought to the citadel of Susa, placed in the care of the king's eunuch, subjected to 12 months of oils and perfumes, 6 months with oil of myrrh, 6 with spices, before each was taken to the king. One night, one chance. Most would never see him again. They would live out their days in the secondary quarters, forgotten. Among them was a girl named Hadassah, an orphan, raised by her cousin Mordecai, a Jew whose family had been carried into exile generations before. He served at the king's gate. He checked on her daily. He told her to hide her identity, to call herself Esther, and when her turn came, something shifted. The king loved Esther more than any of the others. He set the crown on her head. She was queen, but the danger of her secret had only begun. What happened next would test everything she had been told to conceal, and it would come from a place neither of them could have predicted. Mordecai continued his work at the gate. He overheard 2 officials, Bigthan and Teresh, plotting to kill the king. He reported it through Esther. The conspiracy was exposed. The would-be assassins were executed. The event was recorded in the royal chronicles, and Mordecai's name was written down. At the time, it seemed like a footnote. No reward, no recognition, just words on a page, forgotten. Or so it seemed. It would change everything, but not yet. First came Haman. A man named Haman rose to power. The king elevated him above all other nobles. He commanded that everyone at the gate bow before him. Mordecai would not. Day after day, Haman demanded. Mordecai refused. The reason the text suggests was his faith. He would not bow to a man, the others noticed. They challenged Mordecai. He held his ground. Haman's rage did not stop at Mordecai. He would destroy the entire people from whom Mordecai came. He cast lots Purim to choose a date. The 13th of Adar, then he went to the king. He described a people scattered throughout the empire, separate in their laws, who did not keep the king's laws. He did not name them. He asked for a decree, annihilation. The king agreed. He gave Haman his ring. Letters were written and sent to every province. The date was set, 13 months away. Time enough for the empire to prepare. Time enough for despair to spread, and in Susa the city celebrated. Haman sat down to drink. The fate of a people had been decided in a single audience. With a single decree, Mordecai tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went to the gate. He could not enter the palace in such a state. Esther sent a servant to learn why. Mordecai sent back a copy of the decree, and a question, who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? The weight of it would rest on her alone. Esther had not been summoned by the king for 30 days. To enter his presence uninvited was to risk death. Unless he held out his golden scepter, she would be executed. No exceptions. She sent her reply, gather all the Jews in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days. I will go to the king, and if I perish, I perish. The words have echoed ever since. A woman stepping toward the throne. Toward whatever came next. She put on her royal robes. She stood in the inner court in full view of the throne. The king saw her. He held out the scepter. She had survived the first moment. But she did not plead yet. She invited him to a banquet, and Haman. The king accepted. At the feast, he asked what she wanted. She invited them again. To a second banquet, the answer would wait, delay, risk, strategy, or fear. The text does not say. Haman left in high spirits. He was the only guest besides the king. He had the queen's favor. Then he saw Mordecai, still refusing to bow, still standing. His fury returned. His wife Zeresh and his friends suggested he build a gallows, 75 feet high, for Mordecai. Haman ordered it built. That night he would ask the king to hang Mordecai on it. He would sleep well. He did not know what the king would read before dawn. He did not know that the chronicles were about to speak. The king could not sleep. He called for the book of memorable deeds, the royal chronicles. They were read to him, and in them the record of Mordecai exposing the assassination plot. The king asked, "What honor has been given to Mordecai for this?" Nothing. No reward. The debt had never been paid. At that moment, Haman entered the outer court. He had come to ask for Mordecai's execution. He did not know what the king had just heard. The king called him in and asked, what should be done for the man the king delights to honor? Haman, believing the king meant him, described a public parade, royal robes, a royal horse, a crown on the horse's head, a noble leading him through the streets proclaiming his honor. The king said, "Do all of this." For Mordecai the Jew, Haman obeyed. He led the man he hated through the city. Then he went home in shame. His wife said, "If Mordecai is of the Jewish people, you will not prevail against him. You will surely fall before him." The king's eunuchs arrived. They hurried Haman to the second banquet. What Esther would say there would seal his fate. Esther spoke. She asked for her life, and for the life of her people. "For we have been sold," she said, "to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated." "Had it been a matter of mere slavery," she said, "I would have kept silent. But this is genocide," the king demanded. "Who is he? Where is he?" Esther answered, "A foe and enemy, this wicked Haman." The king rose in wrath. He walked into the palace garden. Haman stayed. He fell on the couch where Esther was, begging for his life. The king returned. He saw Haman and interpreted the scene as assault. A eunuch named Harbona pointed out the gallows Haman had built for Mordecai, standing in Haman's own house. The king said, "Hang him on it." Haman was executed on the structure he had made for his enemy. The reversal was complete. The man who had built a scaffold for Mordecai now hung from it himself. But the threat was not over. The decree still stood. The decree had already been sent. In the Persian system, a law sealed with the king's ring could not be revoked, not even by the king. Esther went to the king again. He gave her and Mordecai authority to write a new decree. The Jews were permitted to assemble and defend themselves, to fight back. On the 13th of Adar, the day originally chosen for their destruction, they did, in Susa, in the provinces. Their enemies were defeated. The Feast of Purim was established to commemorate their deliverance. The name comes from the lots Haman cast, Purim, and the story was preserved in the scroll that bears Esther's name. It has been read at Purim for over 2 millennia. The narrative does not explain. It does not moralize. It simply records what the text claims occurred. Scholars continue to debate how much of the narrative corresponds to verifiable events. Persian records do not mention Esther or Mordecai. Herodotus, the Greek historian who wrote of Xerxes, names a different queen. Some researchers have noted that names similar to Mordecai appear in surviving administrative texts from the period. Xerxes I, however, is firmly attested. His reign, his capital, his empire. These are historical. The account itself has shaped Jewish identity and observance for millennia. Purim is still celebrated. The scroll is still read in synagogues. And at its heart remains a question that echoes across time. Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? The story does not answer. It only asks. If this look into one of history's most enduring stories resonated with you, like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the figures and events that shaped our world. The irony of the tale is stark. The man who demanded universal homage was brought low by the very people he sought to erase. The queen who hid her identity revealed it when silence meant death. And the king who slept through the signing of genocide was woken by a book by words already written, waiting to be read. The narrative offers no easy answers. It does not explain why some are spared and others are not. It simply records a woman risked everything. A people survived, and a feast was born from the edge of annihilation. The book of Esther is unique among the Hebrew scriptures in one striking way. It never mentions the divine by name, no prophecy, no explicit miracle. Yet the structure of events, the sleepless night, the unread chronicle, the gallows built for another suggests a pattern, a design.